Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. I am your host, Stephen Grant. No, wait. Jake Lockley. No. Mark Spector. Never mind. Doesn't matter. I'm your host, and today we are going to talk about things. I wrote some notes. Originally, the plan for today was to interview writer Garrett Gunn. Are you from Mexico? We were going to interview Garrett Gunn, but he had to cancel, and it was a little bit last minute, so I didn't have my normal prep time to do the show, but I do have some interesting things to talk about, and would love for you guys to chime in as we go along. These are some topics I think you guys will have some opinions on as well. One of them a little controversial that I might get myself in trouble on, but hey, it's the internet. How bad could that be? All right. Now we're going to kick it off with some interesting news. Now these are just some little appetizer tidbits. These are not very big. They're just short little bits of news. Number one, Jonathan Lynn, director of the last couple Fast and the Furious movies, or Fast whatever movies, has said that the final film in the franchise is actually going to be two films. We'll get Fast 10 and Fast 11 as the wrap-up for the franchise. Now, that doesn't answer if there'll be spin-offs like Calvin and Hobbes or whatever it was, the one with The Rock and Jason Statham. But, so they're going to wrap up the main line, though, and maybe we'll be done with Dominic going, family, Another bit of news today has to do with Venom. There was an interview. Let me pull up the actual quote, because this is probably my favorite quote in a long time. It's Tom Hardy trying to talk about Eddie Brock's relationship with Venom in the upcoming Let There Be Carnage. Now, this is from Screen Rant. I'm telling you, this is the quote. I'm going to do it word for word here because it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's 100% a love story. I mean, it opens up with this love story, and it's just not, there's an absurd, surreal element to that. But it's not what you think. It's about kind of a dysfunctional love. There's a buddy movie there. There's The Odd Couple. There's The 7-Year Itch. There's an element of Thelma and Louise or Natural Born Killers or True Romance with the other couple in the movie as well. And then there's two couples in there. And then there's a third couple because there's Dr. Dan and Anne as well. So it's like three couples intertwined in a very different relationship with varying degrees of functionality or dysfunction as you would like it in a sort of operatic ride of thrills, with ultimately Carnage and Cletus Cassidy being the nemesis of Venom and his son. So you've got a father-son movie, too, in there. So we came at it from lots of angles. How do we make this? How do we get more out of our characters that we love? How do we introduce new ones? How do we make a comparative reflection between the couples in love and what's that about? But also it's good fun. That is such a great quote, isn't it? I mean, come on. There was so much in there, and he's talking about the relationship between Eddie and Venom, and then I'm not sure if he's talking about the relationship between Cletus and Carnage or Cletus and Shriek, or Carnage and Shriek, or Venom and Carnage. I mean, there's a lot of relationships in there, and then he throws in Dr. Dan and Anne, and it's like, okay, first thing, calm down. Yeah. JD says, cocaine is a hell of a drug. Absolutely. Also, I noticed I love Jason Statham as the stuffed tiger. If anybody could pull off, it would be Jason Statham. I think he would be perfectly cast in the Calvin and Hobbes movie. All right, so Venom Let There Be Carnage comes out October 1st. I'm looking forward to it. From what I understand, the film is 137 minutes. It's exactly an hour and a half of film with about 7 minutes of credit. So when they say it's a 90-minute film, it's a 90-minute film. And there's about 20 couples in there that they're trying to figure out in that 90-minute film. This is like the 2020 superhero version of the movie Singles. Yeah. Okay. Why don't we move on? There was another quote. This one's a little more sane. This has to do with Michelle Gomez. Where did I lose it? I lost it. Get it. There it is. Michelle Gomez talking about her new character, Madame Rogue, on Doom Patrol. She was talking with Den of Geek, and she said, I think there's a lot of other characters in that she has this journey through discovery. I think she's like a lot of other characters that she has this journey through discovery. She's finding out things about herself that may or may not be things she can live with. I can't really say more than that, but it's similar to the other regulars in the show and where they are having to live with themselves. And how do you do that when some of it's pretty dark and at times unacceptable? And how do you decide to move forward? And so that's in there for her too. And it's a pretty crazy ride that she goes on. That's not just for herself, but with the others as well. Now, see, that sounds like a pretty interesting character. And I haven't caught the new Doom Patrol. I know it's starting on HBO Max Season 3. I'm a little behind. Loved Season 1. Haven't had a chance to watch Season 2 yet. I've got it on Blu-ray, but then I've got HBO Max, so I can just watch it on there. But I'm going to catch up on that, then jump into Season 3, see how it turns out. JD says, what if it turns out to be beaches except with symbiotes? There's some potential there. I can see that. You are the venom beneath my wings? Okay. Let's move on. That bit of news. And then I had another one. Here we go. So, good news on the Loki front, or Loki 2 front. The big thing that came out of the Loki, when the season finale hit and they had Loki will return in Season 2, was Sophia DiMartino, the actress that plays Sylvie, was just as surprised as everybody else when that popped up. Well, okay, a lot of us knew it was coming, but she didn't. Nor did, that was an add-on late on. The director wasn't attached to the film or to continue on. So that's pretty big that they had Season 2 in the works but didn't really tell certain people, which meant Sophie DiMartino wasn't guaranteed to come back. Well, good news is that she will be back for Season 2. And she was talking to Vanity Fair and said that basically her character is going to go through this new arc that she has a lot of regrets now. She's going to see the fallout from her actions and having killed He Who Remains and the multiverse that gets created and all that she's done. And she's going to regret it because she realizes that not only has she destroyed the sacred timeline, but she's really caused damage to every timeline. So that's the big takeaway from it, is that it's going to be a lot of regret for her this season. But also, she's going to regret what she did to Loki. Now, we don't know what's going to happen to Loki because he's in the TVA now, but they think he's not a Loki. They don't know he's a variant. They think he's just another analyst. So will he be able to keep that persona up? Will they figure it out? Will he get arrested? Will he become, will Kang go after him? There's a lot of questions there. And it sounds like he may be in danger, which would explain why she regrets what she did. So let's keep that in mind. But the good news is Sophia DiMartino will be back for Season 2. Okay. this is usually the point I like to say what's going to be on the show the rest of the day, but I don't think I actually have that in chat. Let me see if I can get that real quick. Because I want you guys to stick around. There's some great shows. And by the way, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, because that's how we know you like what we're doing and stuff like that. Now, after this show is Comic Collectibles. I think that's with Rex and the Not Nicks. And I saw a couple of the books that they're going to have on there. And one of them is a first edition of Rocket Raccoon #1, drawn by Scotty Young. Okay. We see a lot of great Scotty Young covers out there. This is a great cover by him, the Rocket Raccoon cover. But actually to have it signed, that is pretty awesome. Now, I don't know what's going to be on after that, because we've got it. Yeah, Comics Collectibles with Rex and John. And then we're going to have a rewind with Black Comic Universe. So, some good stuff coming up. Stick around for that, please. Jay Burns says, unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people didn't give Venom a chance solely because it wasn't in the MCU. And you know what? I think you're right. But a lot of people did give it a chance because it did over $800,000 at the box office, or $800 million, or whatever it did. It made a ton of money. And and then we're going to have, at the end, we're going to have Kyle's interview with the King, Jerry Lawler. So if you're a wrestling fan, you'll want to stick around for that. But back to what Jay says. Yeah, I know a lot of people, the problem is Sony has this negative, people have a negative opinion of Sony on their attempts at the Marvel Universe characters, at the Spider-Man characters, because of the last Amazing Spider-Man movie, how they ended the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, and just, yeah, I mean, they didn't think it would be that good. And it was. It wasn't great, but it was a lot of fun. And I'd say a majority of that is Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's interaction with Venom, who he also voices, is so much fun. It really is like a buddy cop thing with this horrific creature in it. There was some negative stuff in there, too. I mean, the choice to have Riot be the big bad guy when they had a couple other symbiotes there. Why would you take a black symbiote and pair him against a dark gray symbiote in a nighttime fight scene for your climax? They could have gone with the yellow one. There was a blue one. And also the lack of the Spider-Man logo. That's kind of weird. I'm used to it now. I've actually watched the movie a couple times, and I'm okay with it. But not having it there at first really threw me off. So there really wasn't, other than looking at the face of the symbiotes, you couldn't tell the difference between Riot and Venom that clearly during fast action scenes. That said, the action scenes still look cool, and you had stuff like him fighting with the cops, and just fighting on the motorcycle. There was some really good stuff in Venom. If you haven't watched it, give it a shot. It's pretty good, and I'm looking forward. Everything I'm hearing about the new Venom movie is incredibly positive. And again, it's only 90 minutes, so the fact that they've got it so short makes me think it's going to be just a burner, It's just going to fly through. JD says, I was disappointed because they released it in October. They couched it as a horror superhero in the trailers. I was expecting something much darker. Okay. I could see that if it wasn't the tone you expected. I think it's about as horrific as a superhero movie is going to get, because they still want to bring, even Blade. Blade didn't go as dark as they could have. It went some darkness there, but it still was it didn't feel like a horror movie to me. So, but no, Venom's a good movie. And it's sad when a movie gets stuck with the expectations of the audience. Because if you walk in with certain expectations and they are not met, it's not that you're judging the movie based on the movie. You're judging them on what you wanted to see, not what the director and the writer and the actors wanted to show. So sometimes you got to put your expectations aside and look at a movie for what it is, not what you wanted it to be. But then again, I get that. I mean, there's a lot of movies that I went. Seth Rogen's Green Hornet movie. I will never be happy about that. Okay, because I'm a Green Hornet fan. That was not the Green Hornet. That was just crap. And my brother, who's not a comic guy and not a superhero guy in any sort, liked the movie. Liked the Green Hornet. All right. That's all the bits of news I had. So we're going to move on to another topic. And it's a topic that's been popping up a lot lately. And it's this guy. It's Daredevil. It's Charlie Cox. And whether or not he's coming back to the MCU. Now, when the trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home dropped, and there's a scene with Peter Parker sitting in an interrogation room, and then somebody slams folders down on the desk. So many people assumed that was Charlie Cox, because there's been this rumor that Charlie Cox was going to be in the movie. Mind you, there's been a bunch of other rumors about this movie, and most of them have come true so far. Oh, Alfred Molina is going to come back for the movie. Ding, ding. Jamie Foxx is coming back. Ding, ding. So, Green Goblin. I mean, we saw the pumpkin bomb and the laugh. So there's... I'm not saying he's not coming back, because so far the spoilers and stuff on these have been really good. I mean, or the rumors have turned out to be really good. And this is a dual movie between Sony and Marvel, where Marvel is super tight-lipped. I mean, really good at keeping secrets. And even then, things have been getting out, like the Evan Peters casting and things like that. So for it to leak either be with the two studios, I could see that happening. But Charlie Cox came out and said that was not his arms in the trailer. He says, I guarantee I'm not in that trailer. And it turns out about a week or so later, people were seeing the trailer at the IMAX theater with the bigger ratio, and you could actually see the face of the person in that scene, and it's the same face as the cop who's interrogating him. It's just he's taken his jacket off, rolled up his sleeves. So that is not Charlie Cox. That said, doesn't mean he's not in the movie. And he did an interview with Forbes. Now, he wasn't being interviewed about playing Daredevil or Matt Murdock. He was being interviewed about his new movie. I think it's called Finn, or his character's Finn, but it's about his new character. Or Kin, excuse me. It's called Kin. And while they were talking about that, they thought, well, we've got him here. Maybe we should ask about Daredevil. And it talks about how, he did 23 episodes of that. No, actually, it was 23 episode arc on Boardwalk Empire. And then he ended up doing Daredevil for 3 seasons, and then The Defenders as well. So he's really got into the role. And that's what, 10, 20, 39. So 47 episodes, 47 hours of being Daredevil. That means he's been Daredevil more than probably any other person has been a character in the Marvel Universe, in the MCU, if he's considered MCU canon. 47 hours. All right. Well, a lot, like I said, they're asking about the speculation and stuff about it, and whether or not, how he feels about the fans jumping in and, making these assumptions and stuff. And he says, I don't really mind. I don't really tend to think about it that much. I'm just conscious of when I'm asked about it. I don't want to ruin anything for fans either way. My answer is no comment. I don't know what's going to happen. I genuinely don't know. If there was a chance of that happening, returning to the MCU, in the future, I don't want to say something that could potentially jeopardize those chances. The people high up at Marvel, maybe they see the stuff or they hear what I say or blah, blah, blah. Maybe that influences it. I don't know. I have no idea. I love how passionate the fans are, and I feel very, very touched that so many of them have gone online and made their voices heard about their desire for me to come back, and maybe in the future that might happen. And that would be great. Who knows? We'll see. So that right there, he's not denying it, but he's not. He's coming out and saying, "I don't want to say anything either way," because he doesn't want to ruin it. And in a way, he doesn't want people to not go see Spider-Man because, oh well, Daredevil's not in it, I'm not going to go. And in this interview, he's quick to he points out the work of both Deborah Ann Woll and Vincent D'Onofrio, and how, he's like, they should, if I'm going to come back, they should come back. I mean, he says, it means a great deal. A lot of it is a relief because I felt pressure when we were shooting the show. I realized how important this character is to so many people. I knew I just had one shot and I wanted to get that right, and there's no way of guaranteeing that. You just work your socks off and you get stuck in every area of the show that you can. The character, from all the stunt work to the accent to the fact that he's a lawyer, the history of the comics. I read everything I could read. Just getting stuck in it and hoping that the producers have chosen the right guy. I feel a tremendous relief that it all went as well as it did, and people have responded so well to my portrayal. So you can see how seriously he took it. He could see the weight of the character and the importance it is to people. He really wanted to, stay with it. He wants to stay with it, I think. Yeah, JD, this is kind of a mishmash today, as the other JD says. We had a guest, and Daredevil is canon. I want Daredevil to be canon. I do. I loved that series. I liked all the Netflix shows to one degree or another. There were better, there were worse. But overall, and let's see, Jay says, RDJ is Tony, Ryan Reynolds is Wade, Charlie Cox is Daredevil. I'm with you again. Daredevil is my favorite Marvel character. If anybody from Marvel walked up and said, hey, do you want to do a comic with us? What's the story you want to do? I have a Daredevil story in my back pocket that I'm ready to go with, because that's my guy. So I'm with you guys. Charlie Cox is perfect. Now, Charlie thinks that there's another perfect casting, though, coming out of there. Two, actually. He talks about John Bernthal's Punisher, and he said, and the quote is, he's tremendous, isn't he? Look, as soon as someone like John is cast, it's exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time, that you got to bring your A game. But also my experience with actors that good actually makes it easier for the other actors, because it brings you out of yourself. It forces you to be spontaneous and free and not self-conscious. But yeah, we had some intense scenes on the rooftop. I remember there were a couple nights where we were shooting like 14 pages in 8 hours because it was in the summer. We only had 8 hours of darkness. one of those nights I was chained to a chimney, and we would lose too much time if they had to take me out every time I had a minute. So I pretty much, other than a meal break, I just sat there chained to a chimney all night, just trying to save time so we could get as many takes as possible to get the scene right. Okay, first thing right there, the fact the guy was willing to stay chained to a chimney for 8 hours. My God. Now, so they asked about Bernthal's portrayal, and some of you know when Kevin Feige was asked about the Netflix characters, he had high praise for Charlie Cox, for Vincent D'Onofrio, for Kristen Ritter, and John Bernthal. Those 4 that he specifically pointed out, and people take that as those are the 4 most likely to make the jump over. Well, about Bernthal, he says, yeah, I mean, again, about Bernthal coming into the MCU, he says, yeah, I mean, again, I don't know what the politics are. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know what the rules are. The deal that Netflix made, whatever I say, it can be taken out of context, and it could be a headline that could mean something. So I'm just a little careful with what I say now. But the only thing I'll say is I don't know who could do better version of Punisher than John Bernthal. And that character is beloved. People are crazy for Frank Castle. So if they're going to do it again, I hope they do it with him, because I don't think it gets better than that. I feel the same way about Kristen Ritter. I know that Jessica Jones, the character, isn't quite as well known as Frank Castle is, but what a performance, what a great show that was. So there you got Charlie Cox not only talking about it himself, but talking about Bernthal and talking about Kristen Ritter and how much he, and also Deborah Ann Wool and Vincent D'Onofrio. So he's really talking up his co-stars and the people he got to work with. So again, I don't know if we can take this as meaning any, because he's so careful not to give anything away that we kind of have to take it at his word that, he's not going to confirm or deny nor deny anything, because it just wouldn't be good for him to do so. Let's see, what did I miss while reading? Daredevil and Bernthal is the best actor to carry the Punisher into a TV series. There might be actors who could pull off the character in a movie, but to carry a show, Bernthal is perfect. And you know what, JD? I'm going to agree with you. I've got a tiny personal stake in it, in that I go back to Tom Jane, who is someone I know personally. I've had lunches with him and hung out with him. And I met him before he was, as he was cast as the Punisher. I thought he did a great job in the Punisher movie. And I'm a big fan of Ray Stevens, who played the Punisher. And I mean, there was even something charming about Dolph Lundgren's performance. Hands down, John Bernthal should be kept as the Punisher. Charlie Cox should stay as Daredevil. So, I mean, hopefully Kevin Feige's making that decision. What else we got? Daredevil and Guardians of the Galaxy are my favorite MCU properties. Good choices, JD. Sean says Daredevil is my favorite hero in comics overall. I'm split. Daredevil is right there with me, and then for Marvel, DC, Green Arrow. Shadowhawk over at Image. I've got favorites at different companies. I don't, this is my favorite but if I did have to pick one character, I would probably go with Daredevil, with Green Arrow being a close second. JD, I said that one. Jay Burns says, yes, John Bernthal was an amazing Frank Castle. Agreed. Again, I thought Ray Stevens was criminally underrated. I think that movie was critically underrated. The director on it, I don't remember her name, but she did a great job. It was a John Wick movie before a John Wick movie became a thing. It was all action and no, it was this big gut punch video game type movie, and I thought it was pretty good. But I will absolutely, if I had a vote John Bernthal, Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio, all of them need to come into the MCU. Lexi Alexander, thank you, JD. Producer JD. I gotta start separating the two of you. You got JD and JD. All right. So let's see. We're at our halfway point. We're going to come back with a couple more topics I was able to throw together today, but please stick around. We will be right back.
You are watching Minute to Skim It on The Experience, so hello. All right, I've got lots of books to review for you guys today. And Hannah just basically showed up just the number ones and showed them to me, and I was like, oh, we have
just for the indies.
Just for the indies, yeah. I was like, we have got a lot to do.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. During the break, I pulled up the list of books that are going to be offered up during the next show. The collectibles, what do they call that thing? It's Dynamic Forces. It's comic collectibles with Rex and John. But there's a couple really good things in this week. I mean, they always have good stuff. But the ones that would get my attention, again, the Rocket Raccoon #1, signed by Scotty Young. This is the first printing. The Marvel Tales, the original Marvel Zombies #1, signed by Greg Land. And then these are close to my heart here. They've got some classic Silver Age comics. They got a Fantastic Four #46 with Black Bolt and the Inhumans. And then Fantastic Four #51, which, if you remember, is the This Man, This Monster episode of The Thing. So those are two big episodes of issues of the Fantastic Four that are be coming up on the show right after that. Let's see. Yeah, and there's some great John Romita Sr. signed books. I mean, there's some really good stuff. So if you are a collector, check out the show, stick around for Rex and John, and enjoy that. All right. Ironically, I forgot what our next topic was going to be, and it's my other favorite character. Dynamic Collectible University. Yes. I have been practicing getting Black Comic Universe down. Been practicing. But yeah, our next topic is Green Arrow. But the TV version, Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell was a guest on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, which if you haven't checked out, I think it's like Inside Me or something is the name of it. But it's a really good podcast because he just focuses on somebody and really gets in depth, and it's actor talking to actor, kind of like I try to do, creator talking to creator, but he does it. He's had a lot of former Inside of You. Thank you. He's had a lot of actors from the same type of genre stuff. He's a lot of the CW stars. He had The Flash. Who's playing The Flash currently? Who's currently The Flash on TV? Why am I just zoning on his name? But since Michael Rosenbaum had done the voice of Grant Gustin, thank you. So he had Grant Gustin on there talking Flash to Flash because, of course, Rosenbaum did the voice of the Flash on Justice League Animated, and, of course, Lex Luthor. You know, he had Clancy Brown who did the voice of Lex Luthor. He gets some great actors and great genre people on there. But he had Stephen Amell recently talking about heels, and he asked him if there was any chance that he would get back into the superhero genre and get back into, like going back to Arrow. And Amell said that while he wouldn't want to go back for like a full season, Sean, I remember that episode with Amell having a panic attack and then coming back later and talking about it and being very open about it, about anxiety attack. Yeah. I think it's better to use the word anxiety attack than panic attack, because anxiety attack, I think people better understand it from an emotional thing, where panic attack sounds more like, oh my God, I guess it has a bad connotation. But yeah, Amell had an anxiety attack and had to leave the studio. And then he did come back later on and talk about it, which I thought was very good. Amell better be open to more superhero stuff, because I'm not sure how long Heels show is going to last. I haven't watched it. I'm not a wrestling guy. That's all I'm going to say. I won't critique it without having seen it. But I know he's a huge fan of wrestling. He's actually wrestled a few times. But what he said on the Rosenbaum show is where he wouldn't want to come back for a full season. He would be willing to come back for like a mini series or something, more like what they do on Netflix or HBO Max in this case. So he would be open to coming back for like a Green Arrow thing. And I was thinking of how they left it in the CW, how they left off with the character of the Green Arrow. They did the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they killed off the character in a heroic way. Then they brought him back as the Spectre for a short amount of time and then killed him again. So they literally killed him twice during the mini event, which I thought was pretty spectacular. But I was, so how would he, I was trying to think of how they could bring him back. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. Bringing a character back from the dead in comics or in comics is super easy. But I was thinking that what they ought to do is Kevin Smith got involved with directing episodes of Supergirl and The Flash, and he's directed some really good episodes. I know a lot of people are kind of love or hate on Kevin Smith, but his episodes that he's done for the Arrowverse have been really good. I would want to see them, even if they don't bring him in specifically, do a variation of Quiver, the Kevin Smith run with Phil Hester and Andy Parks from the comic, which is one of my favorite Green Arrow runs. Longbow Hunters is another, but I could see them bringing the character back from the dead in the way they did in Quiver, especially if they go forward with the idea that John Diggle got a Green Lantern ring, because in Quiver, it's Hal Jordan bringing back Oliver Queen. So it would work if Diggle has the ring. They could say that he brought him back to life, and without knowing he was doing it, but he was able to bring him back, and you could do that storyline. And I mean, you'd have to change it up a bit. There's some weirdness in it. There's Stanley and his monster, but there's a serial killer. I mean, it's some really dark stuff, but it would make for a really cool HBO Max series. And I could really get into that. Plus, it would be neat to see Stephen Amell come back, but he'd be like without the rest of the characters. It's a fresh start, which is exactly what Quiver was. Eventually, other characters started showing up, and they could do that. They could bring Grant Gustin in, just go, oh my God, Oliver, you're alive, that type of thing. But you don't have to weight it down with bringing all these other actors back. You could cast new. Sean, I don't know how. I'm glad to hear that. I'm absolutely glad to hear that you love how they're using him in the Arrowverse since the show ended. I stopped watching. I didn't plan on stop watching, but when Arrow ended, I did a couple more episodes of The Flash. I finished out the Black Lightning season. I never really went over and finished Batwoman or Supergirl. And then when the new season started, I just wasn't there. It wasn't in my head anymore. So I haven't been back since Crisis. So I know I've got a season and a half to catch up on, and the new seasons are going to be starting soon. And I want to catch up on them, but I'm just out. But I'm glad to hear that they're using Diggle. I know he just popped up on Supergirl, I think it is. But I don't believe they've let him have the ring. So, and I hear so many great things about the Superman Lotus series, but I just haven't given it a shot yet. So I need to get into that. Jay says, just asking again in case you missed it, but who would you cast to play a movie version of Oliver Queen? Whew, that's a good question. The guy that comes to mind right now is it Charlie Hunnam from Vikings? Is the first one that pops in my head. I think he's got the physicality and the basic look. Could pull it off. But yeah, I think I'd go with the guy from Viking, Charlie. I might be mixing him up. But and I know there's been speculation about him as Green Arrow. He would have been somebody they would want to cast. But all right, Sean says, basically he's that character that appears on each show. He's a bit of a guide. He helped introduce Batwing on Batwoman. Oh, see, that's another character I want to check out, is how they're doing Batwing on the Batwoman show. Plus Wallace Day. When Ruby Rose left the show, I tweeted to Wallace Day, she would said something about looking for more work or working out, so that she could get new roles. And I posted, hey, they need a new Batwoman. I think you'd work. And she responded, oh, that would be a dream job. And that blew up my Twitter for months. So, Jax from Son of Anarchy. Is that who we're talking? Yeah. That's who I think it is. Now you're going to make me look it up. Live shows, folks. Live shows. Isn't it great? Yeah, Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy. There you go. That's right. Also, he played King Arthur. And he was in Pacific Rim, Children of Men. So, yeah, that's my answer. I'm going to go with Charlie Hunnam. So, Catherine Winnick is a Black Canary, though. Yep, that would work. I'm good with that. Let's make that happen. Somebody call DC or Warner Brothers. Okay, did I miss anything else? Superman Lois is all up on HBO Max to watch. I will have to catch up on that. And I also have to watch the Star Wars Visions. I did see the latest What If last night, the Party Thor, and where it's not the best episode, it was so refreshing just to have a fun episode. So it was definitely a good palate cleanser after how deep and dark things have been lately. So, all right, I think I'm caught up on that. But yeah, Green Arrow, I would love to see Amell come back for another series. I don't think they needed to kill the character off. They could have just had him come back for specials and crossovers and stuff. But I'd love to see them do a version of Quiver as a miniseries on HBO Max. I think that would be great. I think it would help the CW a lot and vice versa. And they're all CW is owned by Warner Brothers, just like HBO Max is. So that's all good. All right. We're going to dive into one more topic. This has to do with Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig, who's coming up to the end of his run on James Bond. Excuse me. He was quoted as saying that he didn't think that Bond should be played by a female. And of course, controversy. Oh my God, he said you can't cast a female as James Bond. And this might be a little controversial on my part. Kind of agree with him. And it's not from the standpoint of I don't think a woman could do it or anything like that. I absolutely think a woman could be a great secret agent. I think we've seen Atomic Blonde, and we've seen great female-led movies. The first Wonder Woman movie. I mean, there are really good movies out there that are female-driven. There's really good movies. You know, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to have your typical male white lead to make a good movie. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form. But and Digi is going where I'm going. This will get heat. Daniel Craig has been the best. He's Bond. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Daniel Craig Bond, and I'm kind of bummed it's coming to an end, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. But my reasoning is, like what Digi said, is that first thing, I think the Bond franchise is one of the most mishandled franchises or intellectual properties out there. You have this universe that's been created, and they're not doing anything with it. You know, they're finally allowing comics again. They're doing little novels here and there, but they're all about James Bond, and James Bond isn't the franchise alone. The 00 agents are the franchise, and they could so easily pick another number. You want Idris Elba to be James Bond? How about Idris Elba as 008? He gets his own name, he gets his own legacy, and then you don't have half your audience going, oh, he can't be James Bond. You just let him be his own agent. You give him a different feel, a different background, and you let him do his movies. You want a female James Bond? 004, 006, any of those numbers. Let her take it over. You know, it doesn't have to be, and you could change 007 if you want to be done with James Bond and make it a new character like they're doing in No Time to Die. There's another 007, but she's not James Bond. And the reason I don't think they should do that, one of the reasons is Ian Fleming created James Bond. The womanizer, the thug. I mean, you read the books, and he is as male can get. And he's as white can get. He is, everything about the character is a white male. But my bottom line, though, is that that's how the creator created him. That's how Ian Fleming saw his character. Quite a few years ago now, I did a book called Bloodstained Sword. It was myself and Ben Templesmith. Put it out from IDW, and it immediately got, Ben was super hot because of 30 Days a Night. So anything Ben did, people took a look at, and it got some buzz movie-wise. It got picked up to be developed by a decent named producer. And the first thing he told me, now I wasn't in the discussions because that's how it worked with the comic deal. And the first thing he told me was they were going to change the ethnicity of the main character. Now, my problem with that is my main character was Japanese. He was raised to be a samurai in a time where it wasn't allowed anymore, that it was illegal to do that, but he was still raised that way. And it's basically him coming to the U.S. to avenge his father's death. And it's basically what Ben originally asked me for. He was tired of drawing vampires, and he asked me to draw a book about guys in suits with samurai swords. And that's what I came up with. Now, that infuriated me because being Japanese was a quintessential part of that character. And this guy came along and just went, no, it'll be easier to sell it with a white lead or a Caucasian lead. And that didn't make sense to me because that's not the character. And I look at James Bond, and James Bond is a quintessential white male, British. If you make it a female, if you make it Jane Bond, you have to change a lot of those characteristics. You have to change the things that Ian Fleming did when he created the character. And if you're using someone else's intellectual property, why are you changing it? Why, when you have the ability to just make another 00 agent and a whole new franchise or a whole new series of movies, The Mandalorian is popular, but it's not because, it's Luke Skywalker in a Mandalorian costume or armor or Beskar armor. It's not. It's a new character. It's still the universe. Shang-Chi came out, and it's a huge hit. It's in the MCU, but it's not another Iron Man movie. So, Machine Gun Kelly is interested in your samurai book, so about your character ethnicity. Yeah, that's pretty much the type of thing. Let's see. Sean says, Daniel already gets heat because he doesn't fit the physical description of James, but he fits how the original writer characterized him. Absolutely. If you read the original Casino Royale, if you read any of the original books, Bond was a thug. If you actually went by the physical description, the only Bond actor that really looked like the description was George Lazenby. Not Sean Connery, not Roger Moore, not Pierce, but none of them. Only George Lazenby really looked like the character. But Craig brings the attitude, and Craig brings the thug nature, the force of nature type of thing, or the blunt object, as M called him. So I want to see more diversity casting. I want to see more diversity directors and writers or diverse. That's all great for the industry, but don't do it by being derivative of existing characters, and comics are as bad about that as movies are. Okay. You have a great character like Miles Morales, but he's tagged with the Spider-Man name, where they could have given him his own name, given him his own history. And instead you have to literally tag the name Miles Morales above the Spider-Man name. All right, what else we got? JD said Alba would be slick as hell, though. Yeah. But again, Idris Alba could be any 00 and be just as great. He doesn't need the James Bond name to be great. The only reason to give him the if you want him to act like James Bond. Why saddle him with that? You really want to get a black man to act like James Bond? Seems like you would have to change the character immediately by doing that. A black man's experience growing up, and I'm assuming I'm an American, so I think about it from an American point of view, but I assume growing up in England would have been different as well. So, all right, Jay says, it's like taking a legacy character and just switching them up. I feel like when people say, but no one will like them unless we change them and keep the name, they aren't saying my character won't be universally loved the first time people read them. I think it's a cop-out. People are so afraid to do original characters nowadays because they're afraid to fail. I'd love to see more original, diverse characters, not one that has to ride the coattails of an already established character. Exactly, Jay. That's exactly the point I'm making. Yeah. Sean says, which Daniel does well? The others were a bit too smooth, I thought. I agree. That's as much as I loved Pierce Brosnan's Bond, Craig really works the best for me. And the final comment, I'm actually surprised Hollywood hasn't tried to branch off 007. Yeah, that's what blows my mind too. You know, I mean, I was talking to Nick Barucci when they got the Bond license over at Dynamite, and like, are you gonna spin off other 00s? Somebody should be. And producer JD says, creators aren't afraid to fail. Investors are less risk averse. There you go. All right, guys, we're going to have to wrap that up there. That's the end of the show. Thank you for participating. Thank you for helping me get through this this last-minute put-together episode. It was a lot of fun. We hit some really fun topics. Please stick around for Comics Collectibles with Rex and John. There's some great books. And I will see you guys tomorrow when we can talk about Marvel's What If Party Thor episode, and hopefully Star Wars Visions if I get a chance to watch it tonight. So have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.